At 73, George Gervin finally breaks silence on allegations that have shadowed his legendary basketball career for decades. The man known as the Iceman has admitted to serious drug problems and practice issues that paint a very different picture from his smooth public image. George Gervin was born on April 27, 1952, and became one of basketball's greatest scorers. He won 4 NBA scoring titles and made the Hall of Fame. His finger roll shot was famous across the league. But behind his cool nickname and amazing skills, Gervin was fighting battles that almost destroyed his life. The Iceman nickname itself carries a dark irony. While fans thought it meant Gervin stayed calm under pressure, some believe it connects to Iceberg Slim, a pimp and author known for cocaine use. This possible link between his public name and drug culture would later become painfully real in Gervin's own life. Gervin has admitted he was dibbling and dabbling in drugs throughout his playing career. In a 1991 interview, he described his first cocaine experience. "I was on the road and another player said, 'Try this.' I smoked it and it was like, wow, that's how it made you feel. It was an unnatural high, and it went into a natural body." Gervin explained his motivation for early drug use in a disturbing way. He said, "My greatest high was my natural ability to kill guys on the court. And then I wanted another high, so I had to use drugs." This shows he was seeking artificial ways to match the rush he got from basketball excellence. But Gervin's drug use got much worse after a major career change. In November 1985, at age 33, the San Antonio Spurs traded him to the Chicago Bulls. This trade broke his heart and sent his life spinning out of control. Gervin said the drugs became the medicine I chose to cope with being cast aside by his former team. His autobiography reveals the painful truth about this period. He wrote about his fall into the depths of addiction, being directly linked to the disappointing time with the Chicago Bulls and the lingering pain of being cast aside by the Spurs. The emotional damage from this trade pushed him into heavy drug use that nearly killed him. The worst moment came in February 1989 when Gervin overdosed on cocaine and had to be hospitalized. He was 36 years old and his life was falling apart. This near-death experience finally forced him to face his addiction problems. But drug use wasn't Gervin's only issue during his career. He also had an awful reputation for skipping practice and not caring about team success. Sports Illustrated even mentioned how often he missed practice. A teammate once joked that the only way to stop ice is to hold practice, showing how well known his absence was. Coach Cotton Fitzsimmons got so frustrated with Gervin's practice habits that he gave him an ultimatum. After Gervin missed 2 practices without telling anyone, Fitzsimmons said he could retire with full pay, accept a trade, or be waived. The coach admitted it was no longer fun making allowances for Gervin. The San Antonio Spurs practice environment under Coach Doug Moe was described as outlandish, disorganized, laid back. Moe himself was reportedly itching to leave this incredible hysteria of practice so he can make his starting time on the first tee. Gervin's behavior during practice was equally casual, wearing suede moccasins, biting into an orange, and heaving the ball dead into the basket from a concrete walkway. Despite these problems, Gervin kept performing at an elite level during games. This created a strange situation where one of the league's best scorers refused to practice regularly but still dominated opponents when it mattered. Gervin's focus on individual success over team goals showed up in his contract too. In 1981, the Spurs added a bonus clause based on team wins to try to make him care more about winning. When a teammate celebrated their first win by saying, "1 down, 81 to go," Gervin quickly corrected him saying, "No, 1 down, 35 to go," referring to the 36 wins needed for his bonus. He then said, "Only points don't make me no money." This comment perfectly shows Gervin's mindset during his career. He was more focused on personal financial gain than team success. He also complained publicly about his salary quite often, which was unusual for players of that era, but reflected the lower pay scales compared to modern athletes. The most revealing part of Gervin's drug story involves a decision that may have saved his life. He chose not to join the famous Showtime Lakers because he viewed Los Angeles as Sodom and Gomorrah. Gervin believed that joining the Lakers would have gobbled me up and potentially ended his life because of the city's drug scene was one of the most active in the whole nation. This decision shows both his self-awareness about his addiction and the serious danger he was in. Despite the chance to win championships with one of the greatest teams ever, Gervin chose his health over basketball glory. He cited Spencer Haywood as an example of someone who was destroyed by that environment. Throughout his career, Gervin's drug problems reflected a bigger issue in the NBA during the 1970s and 1980s. He wrote in his book that, "For many of us brothers in the 70s and 80s, drugs and alcohol were big." Other All-NBA players like David Thompson and Spencer Haywood were also profoundly harmed by drug use during this era. The relationship between Gervin's drug use and his practice habits is complex. His heavy drug use started after his trade to Chicago, but his poor practice attendance was a problem throughout his career. It seems both issues came from his individualistic personality rather than one causing the other. Gervin explained his approach to staying in shape differently than most players. He said, "I stayed in shape and I shot all the time and played all the time in the summer. After the season, I used to take off and we'd go somewhere with the family, and then I'd get back in the gym. I loved it, man. I loved the game." This shows Gervin preferred working on his game alone rather than in team practice settings. He was motivated by personal improvement, but didn't like structured team activities. For him, individual skill work was more valuable than group drills. After his 1989 overdose, Gervin began his recovery journey. He sought help from John Lucas, a former NBA player who overcame addiction and helped other athletes with similar problems. Playing a season in Italy also helped him refocus his life priorities and find better balance. Since his recovery, Gervin has spoken publicly about his struggles to warn others about the dangers of drug use. He gave a stark warning. "Casual? Ain't no such thing as a casual drug user. You're setting yourself up for a fall. Once you take that first blow, you spend the rest of your time getting high, trying to get that first high back, but you never do." Following his retirement, Gervin dedicated himself to community service in San Antonio. In 1991, he founded the George Gervin Youth Center, which later became the George Gervin Academy, a charter school program. This work transformed his personal struggles into a way to help low-income youth in his community. Gervin now says his most important legacy isn't his scoring titles or Hall of Fame induction. Instead, he focuses on his family and community service work. "That's my trophy," he says, emphasizing that helping people off the court matters more than basketball achievements. His story shows how natural talent can overcome serious personal problems, at least temporarily. Despite drug use and poor practice habits, Gervin remained one of the league's best scorers. This raises questions about what really matters for athletic success and whether conventional wisdom about discipline is always correct. George Gervin's life reveals the complex reality behind basketball stardom. His smooth Iceman image hid serious addiction problems and professional issues that nearly destroyed him. While he eventually found redemption through community service, his career shows how even great players can struggle with basic professional standards.